For an indie game, this is an absolutely must-have. It shows what developers are able to do with so little and yet create such an immersive atmosphere and very engaging story. The game takes place in October 1917, where the Bolshevik Revolution is in full swing. And as a train passes through Siberia, it's under attack by bandits. You take control of four of the survivors, which come from different factions. Some of them might be aristocrats at the height of their power. Others can be communist revolutionaries that are complete ideologues. While other people of the group might be completely neutral and not have any political affiliation. Your goal is to get these people to work together in order to not only survive the harsh conditions of Siberia, but also to avoid the bandits that are a constant looming threat around the camp. As such, you not only have to worry about the health of the characters, but also about their morale. If a character starts running out of health, then he becomes a burden to the group. He's not going to be able to perform the same amount of actions, and he's going to slow down the entire party. If he runs even further out of health, then he may die. And in this game, death happens often and is quite brutal, which is why it's pivotal to try to get that pesky aristocrat to work with the communist revolutionary for the betterment of the party. Morale is also a problem, as I mentioned, and you can try to increase it during the night time. At night, you have various dialogues to choose from. Some dialogues might raise the morale of the group, while other dialogues might do the opposite. Also, during nighttime, some characters might suggest means of escaping their predicament, for example, trying to build a raft in order to sail on the northern water, or to return to the train in order to see if help hasn't arrived from a nearby town. All of these quests can be completed the next day, and they serve in furthering the plot along. The main strength of this game comes from its characters. The more you play, the more you understand their story, the more you understand their strengths and weaknesses. For example, you can have a drunk person that's not very good at anything, but his stories and his light sense of humor is constantly able to raise the morale of the group. Alternatively, you can have an ex-military captain, which demands perfection from the people around him. As such, he is obviously quite a downer. Most people are frustrated by his presence. However, he is really good at everything he does. So trying to balance these different personalities is part of the difficulty that the game challenges you with. There are also 3 resources that you need to carefully balance during character interaction. The first one being trust. This represents how much the character believes in the good nature and the goodwill of another companion. The second one is friendship. This usually is manifested into the cooperation between 2 characters, if they like to work together or not. And the last one is credit. This usually manifests whether a character can trust that one of their companions will be able to complete another activity or not. These are important because throughout the game you will be able to pair characters to perform a similar task. So for example, if you get them to build something together, then the credit is very important because the other person is going to be able to focus on his task, as they won't have to constantly look at the other guy to see if they're building the thing correctly. Whether if you send them on an expedition, then the level of leadership is important, as well as the level of trust, as the other person won't have to constantly watch their back and they will be able to focus more on the expedition. Now, as I mentioned, there are various activities you can do. You can build things around the camp. This requires resources. When you build something, you can choose between makeshift or solid. Choosing the solid option requires far more materials, while choosing the makeshift option requires less materials. If you decide to build a makeshift structure, it would have less hit points and it's going to be a lot easier to collapse or be destroyed by the weather, while if you choose a solid one, it's going to be more sturdy. However, If you choose the makeshift option, this will lower the credit of the people that are watching you do this, as they will think that the character is incompetent and unable to create something solid. So you have to constantly balance this out. If you need a structure immediately, then you could take the hit on your credit score by going with the makeshift option. While if you don't need it immediately, it's a lot better choice to go for the solid option. Alternatively, you can have various tools that you can later create which will help with the process. Now, you can either select one character to do the entire building, and this costs around 3 action points if I'm not mistaken. Or you can pair 2 characters up, and this will only cost 1 action point. The problem when pairing people up, however, is that you need to be very careful who you are pairing with. Like in the image above, these 2 characters do not seem to like each other. As such, they're going to take a morale hit if they cooperate. This morale hit will affect the entire camp, so you should try avoiding pairing people that don't like each other as often as possible. However, on the bright side is when you pair 2 people to work together, their opinion on each other is going to grow. Because obviously they're going to be talking with each other, they're going to be helping each other, so their relationship is going to change a little bit to the positive. Now, every building in the game has several actions. For example, the campfire has the action of filtering water or cooking or even fraternizing between the people in the camp. So you can have these 2 people fraternize with each other before in order to make them like each other a little bit better. Now, the way you get resources in this game is to set out an expedition. And there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either send a single person out, but this will greatly increase the risk of them suffering harm, as well as it will increase the risk of the person simply betraying the group and just pretending to go exploring while not really doing anything. Or alternatively, you can try to pair the expedition with someone else. This means that you have to be very careful on the trust and the friendship level. You don't want to pair people that hate each other for the obvious reason. When you set out people, they have like these different hexagons that they can explore, and each one of them has a different risk factor. If you choose to go to something risky, then a special event can happen. You can be captured by the bandits, or you can have to face a pack of wolves. So in the beginning, it's best to stay with the safe options and just gather the resources from around you. Some hexagons will give some resources while others might not give them. For example, if you choose to go north towards the river, you can collect water and fish, while if you choose to go to the train, you can collect the bones from the dead people, as well as metal objects and other things. After that, you return to camp with them, and for example, you can combine some at the campfire in order to create various recipes. Mushrooms with water can create a mushroom soup, while string with wood can create a bow, so on and so forth. The idea is to start upgrading your equipment and eventually gearing up your guys and making them more equipped to survive in the harsh Siberia. Some resources, however, can be dangerous and should only be consumed if the situation is really dire. For example, you can have poison mushrooms. Eating a poison mushroom doesn't necessarily mean you will get poisoned, but there is just a likely percentage that you will. When a character gets poisoned, they will need to eat an antidote in a couple of days or they will die. You can also eat bugs, bigot, or you can also eat moss. So you do have these resources that will probably be used in the first days of gameplay anyway, as finding good food is not really that difficult. The game also gains progressively harder as time moves on. The weather becomes a lot more chilly, and you have to make important decisions. If you want a strong campfire, which will warm everyone up and protect them from freezing, then you also increase the visibility of the camp, and you can attract various wolves or bandits, in which case you better hope that you have some weapons at the ready. All in all, I don't think this review is going to do a lot of justice to this game, because much of it comes from the atmosphere, the soundtrack, the character dialogue, and even just how well the game is polished. Again, I was surprised just how much the developers managed to do with just so little. The game barely has any animations. The characters are almost always stilled, and you would think that you would get bored quite quickly of this game. However, I disagree. And the replayability is also quite high, considering that each of these characters have different personalities, as I mentioned before. And starting a game where you end up with 3 communists and just 1 neutral person is going to be a completely different experience than playing a game with 1 communist, 1 aristocrat, and 2 neutral people. With that said, let me know what you think. I really do recommend this game. You can find it on Steam. I believe it's even on the Nintendo Switch. The game is called Help Will Come Tomorrow. And last time I checked, it was about $19, but I think it was a sale. So I don't know how much the price is now. It will also differ on various platforms that you want to buy it. But this is an excellent game, not only if you want to waste some time, like you're at a bus station and you whoop up your Nintendo Switch and you play a little with it, or you actually want to get involved and you want to be more of a serious gamer. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the comment section and talk to you there.